Welcome to Chef Leadership Academy. I'm Professor Jagdish Sheth. The topic of today's presentation is all about the future of brick and mortar retailing. Brick and mortar retailing is going through an enormous transition, being disrupted by the e-commerce market exchanges and companies like Amazon, Alibaba, and Flipkart in different parts of the world. What's the future? Will brick and mortar survive itself? And if it survives, what will be the new avatar or reincarnation that will take place? I'll make suggestions that primarily brick and mortar will survive, as retailing has survived over time with many transformations and disruptions. So we'll take a historical view and suggest that the way brick and mortar stores will survive in the future is going to be primarily by making them from low tech to very much high tech, and also from selling merchandise to adding more and more value added services for which the consumer pays. In other words, it's unbundling free services into paying, just like what the airlines have done, where you pay for excess baggage, you pay for seating assignment, unbundling the pricing mechanism. So let's start the journey. The title of the presentation is The Future of Brick and Mortar Retailing, High-Tech Experience and Value-Added Services. The global retail sector achieved a revenue of $23 trillion in 2017, which is bigger than the US economy, and should continue to grow to $28 trillion by 2019-2020, just the recent data, with an average annual growth rate of 3.8% since 2008. That growth rate is pretty significant because majority of the retailing that we study is all in advanced economies, and 3.8% is a significant factor compared to the growth of 1.5%, 1%, maybe 2% in most advanced economies. The retail sector surprisingly represents 31% of the world's GDP and employs millions, billions of people. I don't have the numbers for the number of employees, but it is a very labor-intensive industry in general. Historically, that's how it got organized, and we'll talk about its future, which is a little more on automation and less people. Hyper stores and supermarkets account for 35% of retail direct sales, with US and China at the forefront in terms of retail revenues. However, the numbers I just gave you does not account for cash-based informal retailing, such as street vendors and small rural shops in many parts of the world, especially in emerging economies, but it's true also, surprisingly, in advanced economies. E-commerce itself has grown, which is a big paradigm shift, at 23% per annum between 2012 and 2019, and will reach 15% of the total retail sector by 2020. It is growing faster than 3.8% average growth, and therefore will catch up eventually from brick and mortar physical to more and more virtual or online. At this rate, e-commerce will surpass $5 trillion by 2020, this coming year. The retail sector, however, is in trouble, as I mentioned. World-class retailers such as Toys R Us, Radio Shack, and Sears are all under Chapter 11 protection or bankruptcy, as we call it. Also, many icon brands, including H&M, Ralph Lauren, Michael Kors, remember how great these brands were created, are also closing their stores selectively, not wholesale, but selectively they are reducing themselves down or downsizing it. I was absolutely surprised when I saw this report from NBC News on December 31st, 2019, written by a reporter or a writer, that more than 9,300 stores were closed in 2019 in US alone, a 63% increase from 2018, when more than 5,700 stores were closed. And by the way, the number in 2017 was higher than 2018. Large number of store closures were primarily large retail chain stores, completely shutting down, and the numbers were staggering. Payless shoe stores, 2,500 stores, they decided to quit the game, go for Chapter 11 protection. Jamboree, 805 stores. Dress Barn, 650 stores, and it goes on and on. These are just some examples. So why do good retailers go bad? Which is a fundamental question. Historically, it has happened with A&P. It happened with Sears recently. It has happened with, Neiman Marcus is happening. Why? We have several theories in marketing. The old theories are wheel of retailing, which means as you start in a no-frills environment, like the no-frills airlines, you do very, very well because you offer a great value to the customers. Price is a good mechanism, more value than a price per se. Now you outgrow and you go into a fancy Fifth Avenue in New York. That was the wheel of retailing theory. Now you become very expensive. Somebody else that you vacated in that Canal Street area, as it is called in New York, starts another retail concept and they rise. That's called a wheel of retailing. It's sort of the inevitability of the human life cycle. You are born, you grow, and you die. We also have the large number of theories and formulas for retail gravitation. That the consumers shop primarily within 5, 6, 7 miles or 10 kilometers. That theory is also out of the window now because people shop all over the world or from all over the world on a common e-commerce platform. So that theory is no longer valid. So these old theories themselves are obsolete. My view is that most retailers go bad when they are either unable or, more importantly, unwilling to adapt, when their ecosystem in which they exist or thrive, such as technology, non-traditional competition, and consumer lifestyles, change rapidly. To me, it's the external environment which is changing and they are either unable or unwilling to adapt. I have written a book called The Self-Destructive Habits of Good Companies. Why good companies fail. And in my analysis across all industries, not just retailing, I found fascinating that the first major 7 bad habits, one key bad habit is denial of new realities. But it is ultimately unwillingness or inability to bring about a change. Digital Corporation, great company, but was unwilling to change. The founder, Ken Olsen, on his way out, killed the company by not listening that the PC revolution is real, will take over the job of mainframe computers. And IBM was unable to change, primarily from the blue box selling large numbers of highly capitalized computers to going into services or going into subscription-based, like a cloud services, etc. And the transition IBM is still going through, but it almost collapsed in the process. They brought an outside CEO who had no experience in computing at all and transformed the company altogether. Lou Gerstner was his name. And IBM is still trying to figure out where it wants to go. So here are some examples. A&P, coast to coast, the first supermarket, but it was on private labels. Every brand was A&P brand, which was a great model because Marks and Spencer had done very well in England, for example. But that model didn't sustain when manufactured brand companies began to offer better deals. Pull marketing versus push marketing. Woolworth, dime stores concept. There were 3 dime stores in the downtown area where daily conveniences you will buy from them, not the grocery side, but the dry goods. There were 3 companies, Woolworth, SS Kresge, which transformed into Kmart, for example, and WT Grant, which died eventually. Woolworth actually went eventually into specialty retailing in shopping malls when shopping malls became the place to shop and people began to go away from living in the downtown to into the suburbs. Woolworth still does well in some countries, but not in the US. Kmart and Sears is the latest casualty, unthinkable. This was the best retailer Sears ever. Their formula was right. But somehow they did not keep up with times in terms of cash registers, the computerization, the delivery mechanism, for example, and they began to plateau and primarily selling hardware when soft goods like clothing, etc., were very important. If you analyze it, it's such a painful story, a great icon of America, which created enormous value for the people. Largest credit card holders were Sears Card, 50 million households before Visa and MasterCard took over that business. As I said, it's such a painful story to talk about it. And of course, now very premium brand names like Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue are in serious trouble. Why? The reason is digital technology, including e-commerce and electronic market exchanges, have been the most disruptive forces. The Amazon of the world. And people would rather go to Amazon and buy for the convenience, the home delivery, than get out of the home, drive a short distance to go to a neighborhood grocery store. Convenience matters to people. People are driven more and more by time poverty, not just income poverty. And therefore, stores that deliver to you online at home, people are buying more daily necessities at Amazon, such as, for example, detergents, shampoo, toilet paper, napkins, mind-boggling, as opposed to buying high-ticket items or books where Amazon began. Today, you can buy anything on Amazon. And the inventory is massive on Amazon compared to what a retail store can ever keep up. My view is that this will be further accelerated with artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and blockchain technology as it becomes mainstream, as they all become mainstream. As the artificial, therefore, becomes real, retailers will have to reposition for future survival and maybe growth in the process. So let me talk about the evolution of retailing first before we talk about the repositioning of the brick and mortar retail stores. Retailing has a fascinating history. The theory, still we talk about it, the three laws of retailing are location, 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 which is how retailing began. In the old days, the agricultural days, the monarchy days, those were the bazaars, or trading post on the way in the Silk Route, for example, or in America from the East Coast to the West Coast. These were all basically bazaars. Bazaars became shopping centers. Now shopping centers are becoming digital market exchanges primarily. So location was very key. Location gave way when everybody was able to equalize that to convenience. How do you make it easy? Credit card payments, for example, as opposed to bringing cash or writing checks. Having an assortment at that retail location, making more convenient as a one-stop shop, for example. Today, retailing is going through customer experience, which I think we'll go through a phase, and I will talk about it a little more. But eventually, retail future will lie in adding value-added services. In other words, what can at the retail store the company, the store, the chain can do for which the customers are willing to pay for the convenience or whatever it is, as opposed to giving it away free service. I think that's the mechanism. At each inflection point, which are the four ones that I just talked, retailing has transformed itself to survive and even to thrive. Retailing is not dead. Retailer may be dead, but retailing will survive. So how do you reposition the brick and mortar retail industry? There are two dimensions. The vertical dimension I have is a low tech to high tech. Make the experience with digital experience and excitement, like a shopping arcade in some fashion, or electronic machines that you go and play. And focus of retailing always has been selling the merchandise, either by the salespeople in the way you organize it in self-service area, where you locate them, point of sale, everything we have learned and done in retailing. However, the focus has to go from merchandise selling and training people, atmospherics, everything we do in retailing, to more and more adding value-added services. The word is value-added services, which means that customer has a value and they're willing to pay for those services. So let me show you number of examples of value-added services. So the company goes from selling merchandise to selling value-added services. I was surprised many years ago, almost 20 years ago, when I learned at Sears, the chairman of Sears at that time told me that out of the $24 billion merchandise retail group they had, the two best profitable businesses were none of the merchandise, appliances, for example, for which they are very famous with Kenmore brand, or fitness equipment, hardware stuff primarily. But the two most profitable businesses there were was financing, credit card, and the margin on credit card, and the other one was extended warranty. 34% came from credit card interest rates, and 30% came from extended warranty services on the products that you sold. So here are 8 recommendations of value-added services. Different companies are doing different things. One has to pick and choose in terms of the competency and the economics. First one is ordering online but delivering and taking the delivery at the store. That is a pretty common phenomenon. Or delivering at home. You have the whole Grub Hub phenomenon. You have, in fact, Uber phenomenon in many ways. And given that many companies are now saying that, let's say, omni-channel, as they call it, or I call it the pizza industry. What's a pizza industry? You dine in if you want to. You have a takeout order, or they deliver at home. I think the same thing they can do, and you price it differently, you charge it differently depending upon the schedule. Surprisingly, home delivery of products, Amazon is leading the way. Brick and mortar companies have to learn how to organize and deliver from physical locations to home delivery, or at least to the store delivery, and they're all experimenting. Kroger is experimenting, I know, as a very large grocery chain. Walmart is experimenting the same way as a very large big box retailer, as we call them. So that's one clearly recommendation. Second one, which I already talked about, is financing and having payments over time. The largest industry that survives on financing is surprisingly automobile. People buy on monthly payments. Nobody can afford such an expensive, durable product. Who said that financing is limited to durable, more expensive products, such as the home mortgage or car financing? I can finance anything. I can finance grocery stores or grocery products, as they do in emerging markets, where the local merchant, very small store, has a lifelong relationship with consumers in that neighborhood, not because they come home and deliver the product, take the order, but also finance in case the customer does not have income coming in from wages that particular month. So financing is a very key ingredient in the retail setting, and I think retailers have to learn how to arrange financing, as department stores have done, but not the grocery stores. We do have companies, large furniture retailers called Rooms to Go, and they will offer you 5-6 years of financing given such low interest rates, and of course monthly payments in the process. Interest-free monthly payments, so you don't have to have a money upfront to buy the merchandise, in this case furniture. Third, there is a large amount of money in public assistance programs. Food stamps is one of them, but it is not limited to food stamps. Government subsidize food, shelter, and clothing to low-income people. How can you tap into that market? which requires a different skill set altogether. Not just the people who come with food stamps and basically, I guess, make payment for the groceries they buy. This is much more a B2B institutional sell, primarily into the government businesses. And these food stamps, prepaid cards, there are quite a lot of these things are possible. So I think one has to do. In emerging markets, again, where we can learn, the reason why cellular telephones took off was not because of the postpaid, as we call it, which means you sign up for a monthly fee, but it is basically prepaid. You pay the money up front, you have no credit card, you have no credit record even, and basically you use it, you pay up front. So having a prepaid mechanisms can be possible. I think we have to do a lot more automation of promotions, sales promotions, and discounts. You don't need a Groupon in the middle. It's very possible actually to have large amount of online sales as a way of online promotions to bring the people to the store. And unfortunately, most brick and mortar retailers have very large legacy systems, very similar to the banking. Both have the same problems. Banking, retail banking, which is going to a bank branch, is very, very slow process. Still old computers run the place. They don't have smart cash registers, etc., etc. So I think some form of automated sales promotions or what I call smart loyalty programs. Loyalty programs are there. I must have at least 20 loyalty programs, but they're all dumb. They don't even know my history properly, and based upon the history, can tell me what the next best thing I should be offered in the loyalty programs themselves, surprisingly, especially departmental loyalty programs, but also airline loyalty programs. I find the same thing. They have the historical record, but there is no analytics done on that record to target it on a one-on-one basis. The biggest opportunity, especially for department stores, which are struggling enormously, is installation and maintenance. Like a Home Depot, Lowe's, which are do-it-yourself, but they do all the value-added services. Not just financing, not just delivery at home, but also installation by professional certified people. Costco, which is a very large club-based retailer, similar to Sam's Wholesale Club by Walmart, I think that's going to do very well. So Costco services is growing faster than Costco merchandise. And this could be credit card services, this could be delivery services, this could be financial services, anything that can be done, travel services, just goes on and on. So services is where the future is for retailers. Recycle used merchandise, especially for department stores. There's a lot of merchandise which can be recycled, and one can come out with a second store concept. For example, Goodwill is a great phenomenon. Goodwill is a non-for-profit. It provides jobs, but their retail stores have become like a fashion place to shop now. In fact, the premium retail stores, Goodwill, have excellent garments, clothing, furniture, which people have never used, but they want to give it away as a charity. So as a charity recipient, you get a tax benefit, and they re-merchandise it properly, recertify it. There's a lot of recertified products out there in consumer electronics, for example. So I do believe that something like that is possible. And of course, garage sales are very popular in America. Flea markets are very popular. All of that are almost unorganized sectors of retailing in some fashion. How can you make it organized? So used merchandise is a very important asset other than the groceries, where there are laws and requirements for product safety, etc. But anything that's durable, semi-durable, clothing, etc., one can recycle, one can rent it even, bunch of possibilities. Next area is festivals and events. People do spend money during festivals, holidays. My view is that invent some or tag on to whatever they are. So we do have the Christmas sales, Thanksgiving, for example. China has a one-day sale. India has Diwali, its New Year sale. There are so many festivals out there, especially at a local level. Each county has a county fair in America. Each city has their own festivals. I think if one can more decentralized and come down to the local level, while you have a festival as a strategy, but its implementation can be local. So it's like think global, act local may be a very good concept in terms of creating excitement to bring people to the store. It's like events. It's like an experience. It's like show business, entertainment, but anchored around festivals and holidays, whether those are faith-based or culturally anchored holidays and festivals. The last one is really to go into having subscription-based app. I think a brick and mortar stores really need to step up to creating an app that's world class, similar to online guys. And lots of advertising dollars can be used on that app itself, which can do an enormous amount of mass personalization. As I do the surfing on the web, for example, or as I'm into social media, let's say Facebook or LinkedIn, but especially Facebook, I get very targeted advertisements. I'm saying if the Facebook can do it, it is possible for a retail store with a large number of loyalty programs they have, I can do it the same way. Apparently, the retail hardware stores, brick and mortar stores, have not learned how to go last mile properly. So these are the 8 recommendations. They all have one common phenomenon. It's the old razor and a blade principle, or a camera and a film principle, or today a printer and an ink principle. You give away the razor, but your margins in the blades are so high, and customer becomes a customer for life. As it was true with cameras, Kodak invented that, Gillette invented razor and blade principle, and HP, Hewlett Packard has now the printer and the ink business the same way. Margins on ink are much greater. So it's all about that. These are all value-added services. I think the best analog brick and mortar companies can learn is from the airline industry. Today, all of the additional ancillary services like meals or luggage are generating billions of dollars for the airline. I know Ryanair in Europe or in England or in Ireland has basically said that we would like to have people fly free, because on their short flights they should be buying. So it's like a flying shopping center. You don't make money on the flying itself, but you make money on selling all the merchandise in the plane, when people are basically captive customers for about 1 hour to 2 hour flights or longer flights. That's really what this point is all about. Second dimension is how to go from low tech to high tech, and what I call when artificial becomes real. People are very much becoming more and more virtual. They like the virtual reality than real reality. Just like people are going from kinship to friendship in relationship, I think this is a key phenomenon. It is so affordable today to get into the digital technology at the store level that if one can put that thing in place, you create an emotive bonding more so than with people that we did at one time at a retail store. The principles of retailing are very simple at the store level. 3 things. What you need is atmospherics. What you need, of course, is sales clerks. And what you need is merchandise. So merchandising, music, layout, display, location, etc. within a shopping center, and the salespeople are the 3 foundations of great retailing primarily. How can you make it smart? So first one is smart checkouts. People have no time to wait in line. And Amazon Go has a great experiment going on in Seattle and I think one more city, where everything is cashless. No people are there. There may be somebody just to supervise as a help in case you need it. As you see at some of the self-service checkout counters at supermarkets or at department stores to some extent, I think smart checkouts is very much important because it's hassle-free. People don't like friction when they're shopping. They have no time. They're stressed out. I think technology can enable a good brick and mortar retailer to enhance the experience through the technology and make life easy to do business essentially. Smart mirrors, this is already done by many of the fashion retailers, where I can actually wear the gown, wear the shirt, wear the blouse, whatever it is, and see how it will look to me before I buy it. So smart mirrors is a second major technology. It's being installed now at many of the fashion retail chains. Robot assistants. I think the day will come when the robots will be the greeters. At Walmart, you don't need a human being to greet. Lowe's, which is a do-it-yourself company similar to HD, for example, it's very interesting that today a friendly robot will come and guide you to the shelf space, point out to the specific merchandise. All of them have Home Depot, Lowe's have actually a computer when you walk in, so you can find out which merchandise is in which are. They're large warehouses. Makes it easier. A robot makes it even much more friendly and easy. In fact, they can start having a conversation with you better than a real human being. So I'm a very strong advocate of using artificial intelligence and using robot assistants. Cybercafes in stores. We do have the food courts, we have restaurants. Harrods has a great one floor for all the restaurants. I've eaten there several times when I visited Harrods in England on Oxford Street. But I'm talking about cybercafes. Especially in emerging economies like China, etc., people don't do things at home because there's no space. People go to a shopping center. Is it possible that within the store, such as a Sears or a Walmart or whatever they are, I have a separate cyber cafe? If Starbucks can have coffee sold because you provide a place to sit and think and talk and meet, I can do the same, but in this case, playing games. Have you seen the popularity of competitive video games? In fact, most of the digital addiction is attributed more toward that than to social media. These games are very powerful. Any new release often generates $1 billion of revenue. Their location is needed someplace like a physical store. I think one can create a competitive gaming mechanism in retail stores. So online games and challenges, or Candy Crush at the store, which is a major popular apparently game that you play. It's a like a solitaire, and I've experimented that, but I think you can organize a tournament, etc., as an excitement. Online festival centric promotions. As I mentioned before, there are so many festivals, especially at a local level. Every day there are festivals. If you calculate the numbers, they're staggering. And if you don't find any festival, invent one. We have invented so many in America because we are great marketers. So anytime we have the birthday of a president, we have a sale. We created the whole Black Friday phenomenon. We have everything around Thanksgiving, Christmas, which is supposed to be faith-based, sort of joyous about the birth of Christ, is all made into shopping experiences now. It's entertainment experiences. One can invent. My recommendation is that inventing some new festivals is better than anything else. I think virtual shopping will become very important, or virtual shopping communities is really what I'm thinking about. Many of the brick and mortar stores are quite far away because they provide value, what we call factory outlet malls. They're not as convenient. But if they offer the same thing as a shopping community, for example, online community, I think they will do very well. Home Shopping Network actually proved that concept when we went from broadcast television to cable television, and they offered merchandise after merchandise, and people bought it by just watching the program, ordering by telephone. Think about that one, how primitive it is today in today's world, but that one was done. So I think virtual shopping communities would be another way to add high tech to the brick and mortar retailing experience. And that can be done surprisingly in the store, it's possible. You have the kiosks, or it can be done in the virtual world on smartphones. I also believe that stores must have apps, no matter how small or big. And you make those apps more edutainment, or it's educational and entertainment. It talks about. And today with YouTube, it's very possible, in fact, to create as many channels as you want. So I see a day when Walmart has its own YouTube channel. So many stories to talk about, not only Sam Walton, but each of the merchandise. Who are their suppliers? How people work so hard to produce the products, praise their employees, whatever they can do. And each retailer has the power to create a YouTube channel with which to keep the engagement of the customer in a digital way or in a virtual way. And the last recommendation I have is, as I said, YouTube community. User-generated comment, but more like what we do with the broadcast TV, what we do with cable TV, coming out with a YouTube channel and talking about, and of course offering selectively some sale and merchandise so people can buy. What happens on social media like, let's say, Facebook? I can do it within my own store and my own loyalty programs. They can come to that. So I just wanted to mention, when artificial becomes real, and I find more and more people find more enjoyment, more comfort, more security in the virtual world than in the real world. So people are going more and more toward the virtual world, not only just for convenience, but so many other benefits. And I think a brick and mortar retailer has to participate in those. So let me conclude this presentation. Retailing is here to stay. Retailers may be gone, but retailing will not die. It will be revitalized and repositioned for the future, as it has always done since the Industrial Revolution, when modern retailing got organized. Evolution of retailing from location-centric to convenience-centric to experience-centric will transform into value-added services, hopefully integrated and enabled by digital technology. This will decide who will be the winners and the losers in the brick and mortar retailing. I found fascinating a law of human nature, which is as good as Einstein's equation, as I call it, or law of gravity. When we give up outsourced daily activities like cooking, cleaning, and childcare, they always come back as hobbies. Hunting, that was a daily necessity during the hunter and gathering days. Fishing, it's a great hobby. Gardening, baking breads, now cooking. Most popular cable channel is the food channel now, worldwide, surprisingly universal appeal, and these are great examples. I think the same thing will happen with the retailing, brick and mortar. Brick and mortar retail stores will become specialty stores more and more, like an Apple store, for example, and mass merchandise will go to online on a global basis. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation.